Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, we have two very special guests, Richie Kotzen, Billy Sheehan from Winery Dogs. Thanks for coming in, guys. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. It happens to be the last night of our tour for 2013.
We were talking, you were saying it's been a pretty grueling couple of months. But,
it's been great, but grueling.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun.
Would have killed lesser men, I believe.
Billy, you're a repeat offender. You were here, we did a video at Gearfest, didn't we?
Yes, in the summertime, so now I see what it looks like when it's cold.
When it's fall, yeah, it's all cloudy and rainy today. So.
Exactly.
Oh well, what can you do? So tell me about the band. What was the genesis of how Winery Dogs got together?
Well, I got a phone call from Eddie Trunk, the DJ, from that metal show, and he was indicating that Billy and Mike wanted to play in a power trio style band, and Eddie had suggested that they reach out to me, and we basically got together at my house. I have a little rehearsal room there, and we started throwing ideas around, and before we knew it, we had like 4 or 5 pieces that eventually became finished songs that are on the record. So it was pretty effortless, I think.
Really easy.
Together.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, chemistry was automatic and easy, and that's probably the underlying most important thing, to be in a room together, because now we've been touring this whole time on the bus together, at the hotels together, airports together, on planes together. So, if you get that chemistry right off the bat, where you can just get along, and not even up to the musical part yet, but then when we did get to that, things really fell together in I hate to overuse the word organic way,
Right.
a natural thing. And it just came together as easy as you could imagine.
That's great. Yeah, the personalities have to fit.
Yeah,
right,
of course.
before you can
Very
ever make
important.
any music out of it. Yeah. Now, you guys worked together in Mr. Big?
We did, and we
Previously?
worked together before that. Actually, in the mid-'90s, we did some writing together, and one of the songs ended up on one of my albums that I put out, I think like 1998. I put a record out called What Is. There's a song on there called Locked Out that Billy and Pat Torpy and I wrote together. So we have a long history. And then when I moved to LA in 1990, and I met Billy, was one of the first people I met, and we always got along, and so it seemed like a great idea to start the Winery Dogs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Now, how did your connection come about with Mike Portnoy, the drummer?
Well, Mike contacted me after he left his last band. He wanted to start something new and not the same. Kind of not the prog thing. Well, he does other side projects that are prog, are pretty cool, great stuff. But so he just wanted to kind of get back to his original Led Zeppelin, who kind of Beatles roots, where he played singing and songs, and so we initially worked a little bit with another guitar player. It didn't work out, and so when Eddie Trunk suggested Richie for the band, I kind of kicked myself because why didn't I think of that? Because like Richie said, we worked together before Mr. Big, during Mr. Big, and after it as well. And so I don't know why. It was just because it was such an obvious choice. So I missed it. I was like, well, where could it be? And it was right there.
Right.
So, but Mike and I, we've done a bunch of things together. We did a Who tribute with Paul Gilbert and Gary Sharon. We did a tour of that. I played on a bunch of records with him over the years. And we did a recent tour with PSMS, Portnoy, Sheehan, McAlpine, Sherinian. We just went around the world playing instrumental stuff, just kind of as a, for the heck of it.
Right.
And we ended up with a pretty cool situation there. But then doing this is really the real thing. It's just, it's rock drums. And Mike plays this cut down kit. So usually he's got a monster kit with, it covers 2 zip codes. It's so big, And but now cut down, it's kind of interesting to see, the concentration on a smaller kit. It turns them it moves them in a different direction, which is kind of cool.
Right. So it seems like the whole project is real song-oriented. How did the process come together? You mentioned that you got in a room together and 4 or 5 songs came out of it. Was the whole album done that way, or did you each bring things in, or how did the process go?
Well, initially we got together and did what I said, and out of that we came up with about 7 or 8 pieces of music. So you'd have a riff, Billy'd have a riff, or I'd have a riff, and then, all right, try this chord change, and then go here and go there. So we ended up with 7 or 8 of those that were instrumental pieces. And I ended up going in and messing around with some vocal melody ideas and lyric things, and then I demoed those up and sent them off to the guys, and they made their comments, and we kind of finished it from there. And then there was another batch of songs that I had pretty much lying around on the hard drive, and I remember going through, I don't know, another 8 or 9 songs. Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And there were a couple that caught Billy's ear and a couple that Mike liked, and we put them in the mix, and they became Winery Dogs songs.
Right.
And that was really it. It was, just real honest, you like it, you like it, you don't. And we made our decisions and produced it ourselves. And then once we really felt like we had everything recorded the way we wanted, we sent it off to a buddy of ours, Jay Rustin, and he mixed the record, and I think he just did a great job with it. And that was it.
Right. So how much, as you were, one of the things that I found really interesting about the record is you have these song structures, and within that there's these little parts where you'll play a lick and you'll shadow along, or vice versa, where just a little thing will happen here and there. How much of those were conscious, and how much of those happened during the course and said, that should be cool, or it just happened?
It was probably 50-50. I know exactly where they were planned and where they weren't. For example, Elevate, the opening song, there was a big section there, and Billy and Mike just kind of went off and just did their thing. And when I listened to that and I was doing guitars, I'm like, well, this is really great the way it is. What am I going to do? So I basically picked parts that I thought could be accented. So I kind of doubled some of his lines that he put in there, and it kind of created this whole orchestrated effect. Another perfect example is the song Not Hopeless. There's a whole bass solo there, but then at the end he does this crazy tapping line, and I'm thinking, well, that's too cool, I got to double that,
Right.
So then I found a way to play. I don't have the same technique as he does, so I found a way to do it with open strings. So now the guitar is doing it, same notes, but just doing it in a different kind of approach, and it sounds unique, and people hear that and they think, oh man, they must have spent hours charting and writing, and
Right.
And then a couple tunes like there's a couple lines in We Are One, for example. Those lines were kind of just written into the song.
Okay.
So we just kind of wrote it that way. But it's half of it was improv and half was just kind of doing it.
One that caught my ear was Time Machine, where there's the bass section in the middle where you're things. Is there a guitar shadowing that, or is that an effect on the bass?
That's all him. In Time Machine, there's another section which is like just go off, be Billy Sheehan. And then there were certain things that he did, like there's a crazy tapping line that I doubled, so the guitar doubles that, and then he goes alone, and then there's another line that he plays, and I double that. So again, it's another example of just improvising, and suddenly that becomes part of the tune.
Right.
Yeah, most everything was built on improvisation. And it's funny because the solo that Richie mentioned in Not Hopeless, when I did it, I'm always working on new techniques and new ways to play. So I had this whole thing I've been working on for the last couple of years, and I just did a big long string of it. But then when it came time to play it live, I had to learn it, and I couldn't remember how I did it at all. So it really took me a long, and I still don't really have it exactly right. There's a part of it which I'm not really sure what I did or how I did it.
Yeah.
So I got the amazing slow downer software, and I listened to real close, and so I kind of got it approximated. And we do it live, and it works, but. It's a testament that it was, in fact, improvised. Right? That I didn't have a clue what it was when I had to learn how to play it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. One of the things that strikes me about your guitar technique is you're not using a pick, are you?
No. Well, to be honest, on the Winery Dog record, there's a couple spots where I did use a guitar pick just because I wanted a more aggressive sound. Live, I don't use a pick at all. And it's really just because it's one less thing for me to deal with carrying on the road. You got the amp, the guitar, the
Socks,
pedals.
underwear, toothpaste.
Yeah,
I forgot the picks.
Right.
I'm done with it now. Just use my fingers.
Well, it changes your style, though. It brings out more of a legato feel, I think, and gives you the opportunity to do some different things. Does that make it more difficult or less difficult?
The reason why I did it in the first place was because I wanted to change what I was doing. And I remember I did it on the road maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I was in Brazil, and I did a show where I had a night that I wanted to forget. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't go out and play like that again. And I knew that I wasn't going to get much better in the hotel room, the night before practicing for the next day. So I figured, well, why don't you eliminate something? So I eliminated the guitar pick. I did the whole gig without a guitar pick. So it cut out a lot of my stock things, no alternate picking, no sweep picking. What it did was it forced me to play what I would call a little more musical. And I had a really good night. And then my manager at the time was there and he's like, "Oh my God, that's great, you should keep doing that." I said, "Well, maybe I will, see what happens." And now I'm slowly, years later, being able to bring back some of those techniques that I lost, like the sweep picking thing. Now I'm finding a way that I can play those same runs with my fingers. And it's opening up so many new doors. And anytime I want, I can go pick up a guitar pick and do all that other stuff. So I wanted to change. I wanted it to feel fresh and excited about the guitar. And so that was the only thing I could think of in that moment that I could do to shake it up.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it because it takes it out of the cliche completely. There's just a couple of guys that are finger picking electric, that are known guys. I can think of Mark Knopfler as the only one I can think of. I'm sure there's a couple other. Jeff Beck too. Of the big three, Jeff Beck was always my favorite, and so it adds another dimension to it. And I'm a finger player as well, so sometimes these things translate, and we kind of another way for us to lock together.
Yeah, right. It opens up a whole realm of articulations, being able to snap the strings a little bit and being able to.
Sounds different. Yeah.
Do you use flesh or do you use nails?
No nails.
So you're just playing with flesh of your fingers? Right. You mentioned fresh and exciting. And I'm always curious, you've done dozens of albums and all the songs that are on there. You've obviously played on dozens of projects and things as well. How do you keep it fresh and exciting as you're moving forward? And I know a new project does that to an extent, but...
Well, it's a good question. It's something from the inside. For myself personally, I love music. My hobby is my iTunes. When I'm not playing, I'm listening or collecting, so... It's a big thing for me, and music is, a lot of philosophers have worked out that it is the greatest art form, and I agree with them. And so, for me, music always has an element of excitement to it because I just love it so much. But there's a million bands with a million songs, and how do you separate yourself out from from that huge mass of artwork and whatever, and make it a little unique? So, and the only really way I believe you do that is by picking three people, or whatever group of people, and no matter what, the sum of them together is going to be a unique thing. And Mike is an aggressive, performing drummer. Live, he's just, he's great. People love to come watch him play. In a studio, he grooves really well. He's got all the elements, but he's got his thing, and it's a unique thing, which is kind of cool. Richie's got a unique thing. I got a unique thing. So together, it does make a brand new thing. And on top of it, vocally, Richie, if I may speak for him, is for me, he was a kind of our secret weapon. 'Cause some people, I'm surprised, and I'm upset that they don't know about his voice, and that when they hear it now, they're blown away, rightfully so. So it did bring all those elements together. Mike and I harmonizing, the individuals of us created a really unique thing that I legitimately got excited about. And I remembered the true test for whether I'm excited about it is, am I playing it for my friends? People come over and say, wait, you gotta hear this, check it out. And I go, oh, what is it? It's a new band I got with Mike and Richie. And they were legitimately excited about it as well. So right away and it feeds on itself. You get a little bit of enthusiasm, it starts looking better. Other people hear it, you get comments back, you start getting reviews, and so that enthusiasm builds and eventually comes to a point where you're on the road live and there's an air of excitement prior to the gig.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me, you asked about keeping it fresh. It really comes down to a couple things. Balance is a big thing. Not doing... we've been on the road now for 4 or 5 months. It's like for me now, it's time to get off the road, get the different perspective, and it's also like input and output. Like in other words, to write a song and be creative, that output, you have to have something happen. That's what I'm calling input, life. You have to, if you sit in a room and don't do anything for, 5 years, you're going to have this perspective of the room, and after a while you can write about the room, but it's going to end.
Right.
And everything's going to be about the room, and it's going to get boring.
The Beach Boys already had that song anyway.
So you have to get out, you have to live, and you have to do things, and that's the big part of me. It's like if I'm home for too long, I start to get crazy. If I'm on the road for too long, I get crazy. So it's that balance of, you know, not being afraid to take a break from music, walk away, do something else, you know, remodel your kitchen, whatever.
Right.
And then come back and it'll become fresh again.
Exactly.
During those breaks, do you keep practicing or just put it away completely?
No, I'm one of those people that needs to get away from it because I'll start to hate it. You know, I love what I do, but for me, the real motivation isn't just music. It's really the creativity that's involved in it. Like the idea of, you know, coming up with a new song or having a new concept or even a new approach on the instrument. It's the newness and the creativity. So for me, in order to keep that fresh, I do need to take a break. I wasn't always like that when I was very young. I would stay in my room forever and practice all the time. And I think when I started to sing, I started to write different kinds of music. And that changed my perspective and how I view it. And I realized about myself is that I love the creativity thing. I can actually go out at my house, and I built a deck one summer. I did it by myself, and it took me like, I don't know, 4 weeks to do it. And when the deck was done and I put all the furniture on it, you sat out there with me. When I put everything on, and I looked at it, it's like, I had almost the same amount of pleasure out of building that deck that I had over writing a song and going in the studio. So it's like, it's the creativity, I think, is what, and I think it's true for a lot of people. You know, if you feel like you're not doing anything, you start to get a little crazy. When you're productive and creating stuff, you feel like you have a purpose.
Yeah.
Right, right. At the risk of using the supergroup word, one of the dangers with supergroups is you get players together who are all so accomplished and so great at their instrument. And when you have people who are great at their instruments, they want to play. They want to play a lot. With this project, you guys have really kept the focus on the songs in a great way. How have you reined in that tendency that we all have to want to play?
I think it's just a natural way that we moved within this band. You know, as a bass player, I've done a lot of stuff. You know, played a lot of solos all over the world and on a lot of records. So, for me to hang in there and play Regret or play Damaged, you know, just to hold that low, I love that. I love that too. You know, so
right.
it is. I think all of us have done enough to know what a good song needs. And we've all proven ourselves one way or the other as far as all the playing we can do. So at this point, it's just, I guess it's just a lucky timing that we all got together in the same room at this point in all of our lives and personalities where we just wanted to make some great songs, you know, because we've all done notey records and records that were based on technique. And we've all also done song-oriented stuff as well. And I think the real satisfaction for me has always been songs. When I'm home listening to my iTunes, I don't listen to stuff with a million notes. I'll put on Sinatra or you know, or a great song-oriented artist usually, as opposed to some wild, crazy playing, because that's kind of already there. So it just kind of naturally happened. We didn't have to plan it out. No one had to ever say, you know, could you scale it back there, or oh, there's too much of that. We just naturally did what we did, which is kind of cool doing it without a producer, because usually producers in there, he's the one cracking the whip, saying, you know, slow down here or speed it up there. But the fact that we did it with no producer and it came out that way, I think is indicative of our mindset going to this. We wanted to do a song record. We wanted to do a record that would live for a long time, that would appeal not only to musicians, but to everyone, you know, because I've been in bands where it's all musicians in the audience. That's cool, but I've also been in situations where it's everybody in the audience, you know, from every age group and every demographic, because you have a hit record and they're all there to hear the hit. And it's a riot. It's so much more fun, you know. I still love playing to my musician friends, that's cool, but when you can play to the whole world, and you need songs to do that. You know, and I love songs. I love playing songs, and the frosting on the cake is when we play songs, a lot of people come, and it's a beautiful night as a result.
Yeah, right, right. And I should clarify, it's not that there aren't some tremendous solos and great playing on the album.
Well, thanks.
Just the focus seems to be more on the songs and the melodies.
Absolutely, and it can always strike a balance. You know, it always bothered me sometimes when I hear a great song, and there was nothing like in between. And it was just, let's hear a little thing, you know, somebody make a move that, you know, that's just, where they just kind of, you know, hold it steady, don't do anything. You know, So too much of that, of course, will ruin it. But sometimes in a great song, I could hear a little thing, just to pop it up a bit.
Right.
And so that's what I think we kind of do.
Right. Right. To talk a little bit about gear, Richie, you're playing your signature Telecaster.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, it's an unusual guitar choice for hard rock.
I guess. I mean, I started playing a Telecaster in, I guess 1990 or 91. And, I ended up realizing it was just the easiest guitar for me to get the kinds of sounds that I heard in my head. I also played Strats, back and forth. But the Telecaster for me is such a versatile instrument, and especially mine, because I did a couple tweaks to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little, I guess faster than a typical Tele. It's easier to play for me. It has the comfort cuts in it. The pickups are a little hotter. It's got a large neck, large frets. But I can do so many different things on the guitar. And the thing I love about a Telecaster is that the dynamic range. When I first became known after my first record, Ibanez approached me, and I used their guitars for about a year and a half. And if I go back and play one of his guitars, I notice the big difference, and why I play the Telecaster is because of the dynamic range. If I play hard on the Telecaster, the sound reacts that way. If I play light, it reacts that way. So you're in total control of the dynamics with your fingers. On some of those other more hot-rodded guitars with the locking systems and all that, obviously you can do all the crazy sound effects and stuff.
Sure.
But when it comes to the kind of playing that I do, I can't really play the same way, because I can hit the guitar hard, and it's still the dynamic range is gonna live in this little box. With the Telecaster, it's wide.
Right. Right.
If you play hard, it's loud. If you play quiet, it's soft, and you can really control the tone with your hands. And that was the thing that I discovered when I started playing a Tele that I loved. It's like I really feel connected. It's like driving a really good sports car. You drive a 911. You feel everything. You feel the road. You can get a fast Toyota, and it might be fast, but it's just not the same. It doesn't feel.
Sure.
And that's like the Telecaster to me.
Right. And that dynamic range, again, has to come back to playing with your fingers, I would expect, as well.
But even a
gives you
pick,
much more
too,
touch.
man. I mean, just if I, regardless, just it's what the guitar is capable of. I mean, I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. And you're playing through Fender amps as well?
Fender amps, yeah. I play through a Fender Vibra King, and I like that amp because, obviously it's the tube hand-wired thing, but I believe it has a solid-state rectifier rather than the tube rectifiers. And what I've noticed, because I'm a player that I play slow, but I also play pretty fast when I want to. And so when you play more aggressively, like some of the stuff I'm doing in the Winery Dogs, if you have a solid-state rectifier, it'll track everything, and you get that percussive hit. Where if you have if I played through a Bassman, for example, I get a great rhythm tone. But when I go for that real fast stuff, if the amp's cranked, it'll tend to sag out a little bit. So what I've done on the record, there's a perfect example, is the song "The Dying." I've got them both together. I've got the Bassman and the Vibra King, and they're linked. And so if you listen to the chorus when those big guitars come in, that's what that is. It's both amps, and they're mic'd a certain way, and then it's doubled. So you have 4 tracks of guitar, 2 performances, but you get both worlds. You get the real heavy attack from the Vibra King, but then you get that kind of, that other thing that the Bassman does.
Right.
It's kind of a cool rig.
Yeah. Right. And Billy, you're playing your Hartkey.
Yes.
Hartkey rig. What are you using on this tour?
Yeah, I've been with Hartkey for quite a while now, and I use the LH1000 for my low amp. I use a 2-amp setup, 2 pickups on the bass into 2 separate amps, and I play the HA5500. I hope I get the numbers right for the high end. It's a little more tone shaping. It's only 500 watts, but there's a little more tone shaping on it. With the LH1000, it's just a giant amp with volume, tone, volume, bass, middle, treble, not even a master volume. So,
Right.
And it's just the big beefy low end. So my low neck position pickup goes into that, and it's just got this giant subwoofer thing that when you layer in the next amp, which is all the articulation, it just turns into a big wide-ranging wall of sound in a 3-piece band. That's kind of how I grew up in 3-piece bands, and that's kind of why I developed a dual amp double pickup thingy, was to make up for the lack of another guy. So you'd heard this distortion thing that kind of sounded like there was a rhythm guitar player somewhere, but the low end bass was there locking in with the drums as well. So it works out really well for me. The Hartke stuff has been a very, very reliable. I haven't had one problem with it at all. And one thing I love about the company is Larry Hartke's available. So if you got a problem, you can go into the shop in New York City and, Larry, how come oh, he's there. So
Right.
that always helps. Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. Guys, thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate you taking time out. It's the last day of the tour, the gig tonight. I'm going to come out and check out the gig tonight, so I'm looking forward to hearing you guys play.
Cool.
Richie?
Right on. Thank you.
Billy?
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, bro.
Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.